trying to look through all my records so that I wouldn't have to rewrite the manual again, to go over and talk to whoever I needed to of why this wasn't a good idea, because all of us who were involved with the pension system got to go talk to the then comptroller. So this is something that cycles through. So I'm not one to scare people, and I always do the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2, which I find that so many people don't know that they're in Tier 1. And I'll say, oh, I bet you're in Tier 1, and you'll say, well, how do you know? Well, some of it has to do with your age. Second of all, we have Tier 2 people that don't have the same benefits that you do. And so we're trying to make sure that they end up with benefits that are at least worthwhile, and try to keep them within our pension system. Because the more that they come and think that they can leave, or the more that they go into self-managed, that doesn't help your pension system any. Right now there's more money going out than there is going in. So you need to think about this. You know, you want to do everything that you can to protect you too.
And I want to add to what Linda said. I mean, it's just because it doesn't affect you directly today, every single thing negative that happens, it's happening in this country, it affects everyone. So it is incumbent upon all of us to fight as hard as we can against anything that is repressive or negative, whether it affects you directly or not, because it will affect you. If it doesn't affect you today, it will affect you tomorrow, or your grandkids, or society at large. So I really think you don't need to think like that.
I think it's called pay attention to what's going on around you.
Mr. Lockhart, I want to thank you for the refresher on how legislation gets passed. And I have a practical question. If I understood you correctly, this constitutional amendment is in the Rules Committee. Is there any action that we as citizens can take to influence the members of that committee or Mr. Madigan? Are there leverage points what can we do now before May 9?
My assistant in Springfield, and I'm sure know Linda as well, we check every day as to whether Constitutional Amendment 18 is still in the House Rules Committee. But that can come out at any time. And the Speaker controls that committee, lock, stock, and barrel. He doesn't have to ask anybody how they feel about this issue. So we're mindful of this clock, shall we say, on this. And we will press the emergency button if that ever comes out of the Rules Committee. Then we have to find out which House committee will be assigned to. I think it would probably be assigned to the Executive Committee. We already know in the office the members of that House Executive Committee. And it takes, I think there's a, well, it takes a majority of the total members. Mr. Sosnowski, by the way, the sponsor of this evil constitutional amendment, is a member of the Republican members of that House Executive Committee. They need 6 votes, yes votes, to get a bill out of the House Executive Committee. Mr. Sosnowski is one, so that leaves potentially, if he can find 5 other legislators who are willing to vote yes on this Constitution, it comes out of committee, then it becomes an issue for the entire House membership itself. I don't know, is that helpful to put?
Yes, thank you. As long as it's in rules, we don't bug anybody. There's no sense because you don't know who to talk to. That's why we, what do I want to say? It's get out the word as fast as we can if it does something. But right now it's in rules and it has not been assigned.
Thank you.
I want to apologize for my ignorance, but I'm trying to understand the implications for those that are maybe halfway bought into the system, their implications for what that would look like going forward, and then what that would look like once they retire. So I don't know exactly what is being proposed.
Right now, your pension is constitutionally protected. We're one of only a couple of states where they are. So they take that constitutional protection away, then there's many that feel that they can do several things with it, like they don't have to guarantee your pension. There might be a disagreement there because of contract law. So, but once again, you'd find yourself in court. So.
I wonder if I could add a footnote to something. What's the chances, the question always comes up, of this constitutional amendment getting on the ballot? And I think about the political, this is such a political state. So what political reasons could there be for Madigan allowing this to get on the ballot? Because Governor Rauner, he assumes, I think, would have to be supportive of this constitutional amendment. That would, of course, help defeat Rauner, which would make Speaker Madigan happy, I'm sure. So that's an issue that's running underneath, you might say. It's such an unpopular issue. Some Democrats, the Speaker, may want to try to use it politically to get this incumbent governor defeated. We shall see.
It would be a lot of work real quick.
Indeed.
Because I can assure you, if it would get on the ballot, it would pass. Because there's so many people that have lost their pensions or who will never be able to have a pension. And so they vote, just as all of you do, I hope. And so these are things to watch out for. Like I said, know what's going on around you. Know what might be the domino effect if you can try to piece things together. I try not to be real political. I try not to be political when I'm writing mini briefings or things like that. But I think that there always is an underlying current, reasons why Speaker Madigan allows things out, because he's the one that controls what bills get out of the House or what bills even get called. So the man has a lot of power. And I can remember as far back as the college insurance program, which doesn't affect any of you, but we went through all the motions many times, and every time we got down to it, it was Speaker Madigan that kept it from happening. So.
I'm just going to share a thought for the group. If we have to mount a defense on this, and we've always argued, we've paid our 8% into the system. But there's also reality too. For example, during my working here, I was paid from MSP dollars. I was paid from grant dollars. I was paid from ICR dollars. They paid the full employer cost. There should not be any unfunded liability for a portion of my pension. So we may have additional ammunition that we can mount on defense.
Hi, I just have a very quick question. It's possible using the legislative utility that's there that you can look up bills and you can see who the members of the House are and what the text of the bills are and so on. How do we look this up? I see Senate bill and House bill numbers, but how is this referred to in the binder for this piece of legislation?
You go to the Illinois General Assembly website.
Right.
And then they'll have up in the corner bills, and you just press on that, and then
Yeah, I see that. What's it called? Is it House bill something or?
oh, for the constitutional
How do you look it up?
House Joint Constitutional Amendment number 18.
But where do you look on the website? Because you can look
And
under
then in the
bills.
little box, you can enter a code. So what is the
Oh, I
actual-
don't ever enter a code. I just go to the where it lists the bills, and all the way down to the bottom, you'll see Senate bills on the top, you'll see House bills, all their numbers, and then you just keep going down and you'll find the Senate joint resolution bills, you'll find the House joint resolution bills, you'll have the constitutional bills, you just have to scroll down.
Oh, so it's a section
Yes.
in the
It's on that
listing of
page.
bills. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you keep scrolling till you get to constitutional
Yes,
amendments.
yes,
All right, thank you.
sorry.
I'm trying to keep track, so if you've
I was
raised
just
your
going to
hand.
ask, you said if it comes out of the rules committee to the executive committee, how many people are on the executive committee if there's 6 votes that are needed to get it out?
How many people are on the executive committee?
15.
15, but they only need 6 votes to get it out.
Yes.
And one of them is already the person who sponsored.
And as I said, the sponsor of the, is one of the 15.
Right, exactly.
I just had another comment. And in my experience, I've experienced a lot of anger directed at me from neighbors, even family members, because I have a pension and they do not. So, can you suggest anything that we can do to kind of calm things down? I mean, I've mentioned that I put into this system, I mentioned that it's not complete charity and that the legislature is responsible for the problem. Is there anything else?
I have a short story. I have a friend who is in another organization. This organization has nothing to do with pension, state, or anything else. So I was at a dinner with him one night, and he was sitting across the table from me, and he says, "I don't know how you do it." And I said, "How I do what?" He said, "I don't know how you stand it with the pensions and the health care and everything." And I said, "Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that." He said, "Well, my wife and I know the organization that he works for, and his wife is a CPA, and all of their friends work for the state." And he was complaining about all of their friends. I just looked at him and I said, "You know, if you really feel that horrible about them, or jealous, or whatever," because I know that he's going to end up with a nice pension, and I know that she will be fine too. I said, "Maybe you should get new friends." Because I think that you learn not to bring up certain subjects. And the pensions just turn out to be like politics. If you're not in it, they're not going to understand it. But one of the reasons is they don't want to understand it. And I used to say in the beginning that one of the things that we should work towards is, we have it, how do we work for them to have it too, rather than to have everything taken away from them. We're almost beyond that, because we have so many businesses leaving Illinois, nobody's coming, and these are hardships. And look what is happening to higher education itself. So trying to even reason with some of those in Tier 2, or some of those who have chosen the self-managed plan, people that have chosen the self-managed plan, a lot of them did that because they don't think the pension system is going to be there.
Right.
So I think that we just have to be very careful about how we speak to people. You know, my parents never told me how much money they made, and they never told me what their pension was. My dad worked for the federal government. He was also in the Marines at one time. So my point is that maybe sometimes we let our neighbors know too much, because this is a battle we're not going to win. We have other ways that we can show it, we can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a different type of question. This House Bill 4371, how fast would this retire the debt?
2045.
Oh, that's very good.
The problem with this is, why we brought this forward is because What a lot of people don't know, this was the Edgar ramp that was done in 1996. And we were supposed to have everything paid for by 2045. Well, I happened to be working in another organization at that time who was working on this bill. Everybody knew that it would never work. Never work. Because it would get too costly. But they felt they had to do something. So they implemented this. Well, now here we are. We're getting into the real expensive part. And if you look, the pensions now total take 18% of the budget, of the state budget. In no time at all, it will climb to 66%. Folks, no wonder people would be angry. The taxpayers can't afford it. So, this was a way to borrow the money, get it paid down to where the payments were the same every year on the way out to 2045. It would bring up the all the pensions to 90% funded. Right now, CSRS is the best one funded, which I think the other day was 44%. Others fall below that. So I think that in just a looking at not trying to kick the can down the road any further, but let's put a stop to this. We're not married to this plan. However, there's another plan out there I think was discussed earlier, the CTBA's Ralph Marcheri's plan. Well, he wants to re-amortize, and we were in agreement, and we were in even agreement to selling the bonds in order to afford to re-amortize. The problem is that re-amortization still kicks the can down the road past 2045. And we believe that we need to end it. We need to end it for any of your kids that are going to remain here. We need to end it for everybody in order to, because this is a